Hello there. This is a short video about disorders with tyrosine metabolism. It's a really important amino acid in the human body. We're most definitely going to get asked about it because it has such a significant role in so many different pathways. I listed some of them here, like for catecholamines, dopamine, thyroid hormone, melanin, and so on. So I'm going to be explaining the steps in some of the important tyrosine pathways and also the diseases associated with each of the pathways. I'll try not to go like too into detail with the clinical presentation of the pathways. I'll try to leave at like one or two like absolutely high yield facts, but I will leave a link in the description to a Google Doc that has a little more like clinical content. But for this, I just want to focus mostly on the pathways. So let's see if I can get the whole thing. So the pathway starts with phenylalanine, a different amino acid, and it gets converted to tyrosine through this enzyme. Man, it's really hard to write this. Phenylalanine hydroxylase. And this enzyme uses BH4 as its cofactor. So this is where we can see our first disease in tyrosine metabolism. So if you have a defect here at this step, you're going to get a disease called phenylketonuria. And phenylketonuria is caused by a defect either in the enzyme itself, phenylalanine hydroxylase, or in the cofactor BH4. You're probably going to see it more often with the enzyme, but just so you know, it could be either or. Phenylketonuria is essentially a developmental disorder caused by a metabolic disorder, but the most like high yield, like classic finding you're going to hear or see about it is a musty body odor or musty urine odor. And this is caused by the accumulation of phenylalanine because we're not producing any tyrosine. So once we've synthesized the tyrosine, we can go one of a few different directions. One of them is thyroid hormone synthesis. Nothing much else there. Yeah, nothing else to really talk about. But in this pathway down below is the synthesis of homogentisate. And actually, you don't need to know the enzymes here, but you do need to know the enzyme here in the metabolism of homogentisate. And that is driven by this enzyme known as homogentisate oxidase. And I believe this is also reliant on BH4 as a cofactor. And this is where we see our second major clinical disorder. If you have a defect in BH4 and or homogentisate oxidase, where am I going to draw that? I'll draw over here. You're going to develop a disease called alkaptonuria. And alkaptonuria is mainly associated with osteoarthropathy and a lot of like symptoms in your connective tissue. But if you were to choose like one like major like pathognomonic sign you're going to see in a problem, that will be a black body fluids, specifically urine. It's usually going to be urine, but it could technically be like sweat or fecal matter or anything. And specifically, this is the important thing. In alkaptonuria, the urine turns black after a prolonged exposure to air. It does not turn black immediately, as you see in maybe a few other metabolic disorders. So just keep that in mind. You might see that in the problem with like maybe two parents like talk about how they notice like black spots on their child's diaper, but only after a certain amount of time or something without changing the diaper. So alkaptonuria, black urine upon oxidation with air. Okay, so moving back here, tyrosine can get converted to DOPA, and I'm kind of blanking on the enzyme name. I think it is tyrosine hydroxylase. Clearly, I prepared immensely for this. Tyrosine hydroxylase catalyzes the conversion from tyrosine to dopamine, and this is also dependent on the BH4 cofactor. I don't think we have to memorize that BH4 is like specifically for these specific enzymes, but it's just important to know that it is an important cofactor that you see throughout the tyrosine metabolism pathways. For step 1, I don't believe there's any significant disorders associated with this enzyme, but if you just go one step further from DOPA to melanin, that reaction is catalyzed by tyrosinase, which, no, that does not require BH4. Yeah, just making sure. So a defect in tyrosinase is what you see in albinism. And this is a really important fact to know, because albinism is not the only disorder of hypopigmentation. There's a lot of different disorders and diseases that can cause hypopigmented skin or hair or whatever. What distinguishes albinism is, aside from the clinical presentation, on a biochemical level, albinos have a normal number of melanocytes. The problem that they have is melanin production. So the melanocytes themselves, they are fine, they're normal, but those melanocytes just can't convert melanin from DOPA. And this is in stark contrast to another disease that's fairly common, known as vitiligo. Vitiligo is caused by an autoimmune destruction of melanocytes. So it has decreased destruction of melanocytes. Or decreased number of melanocytes, sorry. And then moving on, DOPA to dopamine is caused by, or catalyzed by, DOPA decarboxylase. This enzyme is mostly significant more for like in relation to Parkinsonism or Parkinson drugs. So I won't talk about that too much, but this is a target for a drug known as carbidopa, in case you were curious. And the rest of this is mostly just for completion's sake. From dopamine, you can synthesize the catecholamines, starting with norepinephrine and then epinephrine. I put these arrows into X's to kind of exhibit that these substances can go on to further reactions and get metabolized to other substances, including homogeneous oxidase, but they're just, the identity of those substances is not important for this video. So yeah, I think I covered the major tyrosine metabolism disorders. Again, if you want any further details about the clinical presentations, I'll leave the link in the description. But thank you so much for watching.